It's becoming a broken record now. Executives trying to tout their upcoming games when we look at the actual data, it does not look like these games are going to do well. And what ends up happening, we get flops like Star Wars Outlaws and Dragon Age: The Veilguard. The next one looks to be Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, because we've got Xbox boss Phil Spencer here trying to talk about how optimistic he is about this game's fortunes. Roll this up over at fandompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. I encourage you to become a subscriber over there, join our mailing list, and I also encourage you to become a paid subscriber and help support me in bringing you articles and videos like this. So this is an interview that Spencer gave with GameFile. He shared that his feelings about the partnership with Disney overall. Obviously, Indiana Jones is a Lucasfilm property being created by George Lucas. The Walt Disney Company acquired it when they purchased Lucasfilm some 10 years ago for $4 billion. But this is what Spencer had to say about his partnership with Disney. Obviously, they're making this Indiana Jones game. They're also making the Blade game with Arcane Leon. And Spencer said this: I feel great about our partnership with Lucas and Disney. They've been good partners. We're obviously doing Blade with Arcane Leon with them. I was just out there visiting with that team. So obviously he seems to like that relationship that he has with the Walt Disney Company. Doesn't usually turn out to be beneficial given the fact that the Walt Disney Company has literally destroyed its lucrative IPs in Star Wars, Indiana Jones, obviously Marvel as well. But we did get some comments speaking specifically to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle as well. He said this: I think what you see in Indiana Jones is a team that really loves Indiana Jones and that world. The story is, to me, one of the strongest parts of that game, the way you feel like you're Indiana Jones from a first-person perspective. So I'm not really sure what he's even saying there. Those two things don't really make sense at all. The story and then how you're viewing the story are two different things. Seeing it from a first-person perspective and the story itself, those are not the same thing. So a little bit of word games here, I guess, that he's playing. Anyways, he goes on and says, so it's clear that's something they wanted to do. But for us, given the intellectual property that we have, that we own, I'm a big fan of us using the IP that we haven't even revisited. So I don't really understand that part of the comment either. But anyways, he's clearly optimistic. He clearly thinks that the story is a strong part of the game. And then he also likes, obviously, how that story is being told through that first person perspective, where he believes you'll get to actually basically become Indiana Jones. However, I think there are a lot of data points indicating that this game is going to be the next Star Wars Outlaws. It is going to be the next Dragon Age Veilguard. It is going to be a massive financial disappointment. Remember, we have rumors that Star Wars Outlaws only sold about 1 million copies. Conservative estimates leading in just a month, conservative estimates leading up to the game's release had them selling 5 million copies in 1 month. So they only sold a fifth. And then we do have Ubisoft admitting that they underperformed their sales expectations. Dragon Age: The Veilguard, it looks like it has significantly underperformed as well. We have gotten absolutely zero commentary from BioWare regarding how well this game has done, which I think their silence indicates that the game has not done well at all. But we do have some rumors that it has gotten over that 1 million mark. About two weeks into the game being released. But let's look at some of these red flags here with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. First off, let's just look at the Indiana Jones IP overall. I think the IP has been in significant decline since it came under the management of the Walt Disney Company. The company's most recent film, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which released in 2023, just last year, only grossed $174.4 million domestically and another $209.4 million internationally for a global gross of $383.9 million. Well, you're like, wow, that's a big number. That sounds good, but it actually didn't even recover its production costs, let alone its marketing budget. It cost an estimated $402.3 million just for production. So it didn't even match its production costs. Carolyn Reed at Forbes noted that the film lost Disney $134.2 million in her reporting back in April. So a massive, massive loser. Movie did not make any money, did not even break even, lost $134 $34.2 million. And I think that does indicate that this is a film, this is a franchise that there might be some interest in, but it's not overwhelming interest that is going to drive significant sales. Furthermore, we can look at the game's kind of wish list ranking as well as where it is at on the Steam top sellers list. It actually looks like it's on a worse trajectory than Dragon Age the Veilguard. The game currently only has 41,800 followers and is listed 28th on SteamDB's most wish-listed upcoming Steam games. That's about where Dragon Age the Veilguard was regarding that ranking, but it is a lot lower in the amount of followers. I think it's about 20,000 lower. I think about a little less than a month leading up. This game was around Dragon Age the Veilguard was at like 60,000 followers. And then if you look at this chart here, you can also see that it is 295th in top sellers, despite being released in less than a month on December 9. I actually think that Veilguard was at least in the top like 150 or something like that ahead. So this game looks like it's going to potentially do a lot worse than Dragon Age the Veilguard. So even looking at it from kind of these sales points, data points that we have, it's not looking good for this game. And then let's just kind of address that narrative that Phil Spencer was being so optimistic about. There's lots of red flags with that too. First off, we had this huge one. The game's senior narrative designer, Edward Curtis Seves, who's wearing a rainbow shirt, clearly trying to promote disordered behavior. He detailed that the game was made for modern audiences. And he said this: now we have the opportunity to tell a new Indiana Jones story for a modern gaming audience. Massive red flag. Obviously, him wearing the rainbow flag shirt, him literally having the mental illness haircut that he is sporting in the video. And then his commentary here is huge red flag. Let's just kind of take a look at it right here real quick. So this is what he has to say and what he looks like.
He's synonymous with adventure.
Now we have the opportunity to tell a new Indiana Jones story for a modern gaming audience.
There you go. Massive red flag. Rainbow flag on his shirt, the mental illness shaved head haircut, and then telling us that it's being made for a modern gaming audience. All signs that this game is going to be a political lecture and a humiliation ritual, and usually ends up being a really bad seller. Anyways, Lucasfilm Games' Craig Derrick described Indiana Jones' new companion for the game, Gina Lombardi, as Jones' intellectual equal as well. Another big red flag. This is what Derrick said in an interview on Lucasfilm.com. He said, Gina is the perfect ally for Indy. She's endlessly curious, incredibly sharp, and has a personal stake in the journey. She not only challenges and assists the player, but also serves as an intellectual equal to Indy, bringing depth to the adventure. Gina adds a personal dimension to the story, making the journey about more than just finding another artifact for a museum. I believe players are really going to connect with her and root for her story. So my guess is that you might be playing Indiana Jones, but it's really going to be about this woman's story. They love to do these bait and switches, and I would not be surprised if that is the case. And they will probably attempt to try and sideline Indiana Jones by the end of the game and try to have this character become like the new person to lead the franchise. They were clearly trying to do this in that Dial of Destiny movie as well. And then we had the trailer for the game too. One of the first trailers for this game literally has this character talking down to Indiana Jones. She condescendingly informs him, okay, then let's see if you can keep up. I mean, it's just why? What is the point of this? It is to humiliate you as a fan of Indiana Jones, that this woman is going to go around lecturing him constantly throughout the game. And so you're going to be lectured constantly throughout the game as well. And then there's also a short clip where it appears that she saves him from falling into a booby trap pit by grabbing onto like the back of his jacket and yanking him to safety. So she clearly has some kind of like superhuman strength as well. Just what would you expect from the modern female character aimed at modern gaming audiences? Huge red flag there as well. And then there's another red flag. And that is the fact that the game will feature a trigger warning informing players that the Nazis committed war crimes. This is according to Jordan Midler over at Video Games Chronicle. He says that the trigger warnings reads like this. Please note that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a fictional story inspired by historical events and characters. Names, characters, organizations, locations, and events are either imaginary or depicted in a fictionalized manner, not intended to disrespect any historical or cultural beliefs. The story and contents of this game are not intended to and should not be construed in any way to condone, glorify, or endorse the beliefs, ideologies, events, actions, persons, or behavior of the Nazi and fascist regimes, nor any other regimes, or to trivialize any war crimes, genocide, and other crimes against humanity. I mean, this is just absolutely, utterly ridiculous. This idea that the names, characters, organizations, locations, and events are either imaginary or depicted in a fictionalized manner, not intended to disrespect any historical or cultural beliefs. Who's buying that? Who is absolutely buying that? Indiana Jones should be disrespecting cultures that are lesser than the one that he is a part of. Why would he not be doing that? That is kind of part of who he is. Obviously, he also respects those things. You see that in Raiders of the Lost Ark, etc. You see that in The Last Crusade, where he respects the power of God. And he's like, shield your eyes, etc., etc. He realizes that the cup that he needs to pick in The Last Crusade. So he obviously does respect that, but there are certain cultures that he doesn't respect. And I think we kind of see that in the very beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. And he clearly doesn't respect the Nazis' cultural beliefs, which it's kind of interesting, right? They say like these are not intended to disrespect any historical cultural beliefs, and then they go on and talk about how that we are not condoning, glorifying, or endorsing the beliefs, ideologies, events, actions, persons, or behavior of the Nazi and fascist regimes. I mean, it's complete gobbledygook. Makes absolutely no sense. They're bending backwards trying to not offend anyone, and instead they just make themselves just look like completely and utterly incompetent. And that's what happens when you're making a game for the modern gaming audience, and it's being created by people that are wearing the sign of the LGBTQ plus disordered rainbow. So I think this game is going to be an absolute disaster. Despite what Phil Spencer has to say here, I think we can see this as the third in the trilogy of these executives talking about how great their games are, and then they end up being complete and utter financial disasters. Again, Star Wars Outlaws being the first, Dragon Age: The Veilguard being the second. EA CEO Andrew Wilson was all about like it could be a breakout success. No, it didn't. That did not happen. And then this one here, I think, is going to be the third. I think this is going to be a huge, huge failure for all the things I just pointed out. But let me know what you guys make of what Phil Spencer had to say here. And what do you think this game is going to do? How high will its peak concurrent get on Steam? What do you think its sales are going to be? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.